Is Owen Wilson an alien that has communicated with us from the past?
Wow.
Are crop circles created by the unknown, or are they just a work of some very artistic farmers? With over 2 billion stars and 11 billion potentially habitable planets just in our own galaxy, are we truly alone? Or is the truth out there and we just need to uncover it? Sit back, relax, and strap on your tinfoil hats as we discuss aliens, UFOs, and cover-ups. Oh my. Welcome to episode 5, everyone. This week, I'm joined with my co-host, as always, Josh, and our guest, Casey. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's Cinco de Mayo, drinking a margarita, ready to talk about aliens. What's going on, Casey?
Hey guys, how you doing? Happy Cinco, indeed. I wish we were at the Mexican restaurant, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
We are bringing Casey back for his second appearance, and I'm sure you guys also know he is the usual voice of our typical intro when we put that on in front of the episodes. And just to start off, Casey, how are things going in Atlanta? Are there any changes or things? Everyone seems to be opening up, and I know in the news, your state, your governor was not really taking things seriously. It looks like he was trying to be Trump's buddy.
He wasn't shy about
things
it.
Up.
That's for sure. Yeah, we are leading the charge into non-quarantine life again. I'll say, it's been great. I went and got my nails done. My hair did. I went bowling and. But no, seriously, no. They actually the theaters haven't fully come online again, but yeah. So we did open up. A couple of the malls opened up.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's a little early, I think, but then again, people feel all types of way about the virus here, and my consensus for most people I've talked to, it's kind of like when they build a brand new bridge. Cool, it's open. I'm not going to be the first one across it. None of my coworkers or friends have really ventured out into it yet, and I checked in with all the local news and articles, and there's a few people out there, but everybody's a little wary. People still have their masks on.
Have you been working, or was your work deemed essential, or have you been off work?
Sadly, I have been deemed essential. Although, like, I'm not gonna lie, for everybody that's out of work, it's good to still have a job and be working and stuff. But yeah, no, I've been essential. Life for me, other than not shopping and not going to the grocery store, pretty similar. I've been enjoying no traffic on the roads, and yeah, but I'm an essential worker. I do transportation services, so I work at Epps Aviation at Peachtree DeKalb Airport, and we are working on airplanes. So even though most people aren't traveling or flying, planes still need to have their new systems put in, and up to code to keep their airworthiness on. So we are actually booked up until like October. It's crazy, but as far as like going out,
still working, because a lot of us are not. Josh and I, had to be in a fortunate situation. We can work from homes and do our jobs, and our industry is still deemed essential to our customers. So we're kind of in the same boat. We've been working this whole time.
Right. Good. Glad
yeah, we have more work now than ever too. I mean, OnlyFans subscriptions just going through the roofs right now. So I'm streaming every night.
Well, let's segue now into our infamous positively negative news. I've got some doozies for you here, Josh, and we're gonna keep it short. And Casey, feel free to chime in. This segment, for those who have not listened, is where I'm gonna give Josh try to throw him some curveballs and see if I can stump him. And we're gonna listen to his reactions. So, like I said, we're gonna do it a little bit differently. I'm gonna throw some article headlines and just a quick little summary, because I'm an idiot. And maybe insert clip here from when we were talking about that earlier. So your first one, Josh. Man dresses as Grim Reaper to warn Florida beachgoers about coronavirus. And the caption here is, a Florida man donned a Grim Reaper costume and walked along the state's crowded beaches to warn beachgoers about COVID-19.
Let me guess, this guy pays CNN $4.99 a month to get premium content on CNN.com. I mean, are you for real? I mean, I could talk about this one for hours. The truth of the matter is, what's the survival rate now? Around 99.8%. And not to mention the guys in Florida where, I live, and today it was well over 90 degrees. Not really the best climate for viruses to survive on surfaces. This guy is just brainwashed, man. He's buying into the agenda of the globalists and these big media corporations. And I guess he just decided to dig out his old Halloween costume. And, he's just trying to get some clout, some attention, some eyes on him. I'm going to go to the beach and act like a Grim Reaper.
The plus side was he was wearing a mask.
Oh, well, yeah, technically, yeah, you're right. He was wearing a mask. Hey, man.
Well, he is a lawyer, so...
I thought he was a doctor.
I saw one, maybe it's not the same guy, because this guy's costume looks legit. But, I was going to say, I mean, it's a stunt, It's just having fun, I feel like.
Here's what I think about it.
We will do a link dump on this episode, so I will post the links to these articles if anyone wants to follow along while we're talking about it.
Yeah, it's hilarious. If you just see the image of the guy, it's so funny. But this is honestly my final take on this. Could you imagine if there wasn't a quarantine going on and you went to the beach, you're out there in a tank top, some board shorts, flip-flops, and you see some freak strolling around in a Halloween Grim Reaper costume? I mean, that's all that needs to be said. Like, dude, dedicate your time to something else, because what you're doing isn't bringing any positive spin to the situation. So it's not even the correct means to go about getting your message across. That guy, I'm done with this topic. Move on to the next one.
If I was in California and saw that, I'd be scared, but being in Florida and seeing that, kind of typical. Nothing surprises me.
It is the equivalent of an elephant graveyard for old people, I think.
God's waiting, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Article number 2. California woman dreamed about eating engagement ring. Woke up to find she really did. The quote, "I popped that sucker off, put it in my mouth, and swallowed it with a glass of water." Jenna Evans wrote in a Facebook post about the ordeal.
Oh my God.
This is amazing.
Poor Jenna. I mean, she must be... Hey, you could have a coronavirus type spin on this too, man. Maybe she's in quarantine. There's some domestic dispute going on. I know my brain's kind of spiraling in a bunch of different directions because I don't have all the information about the article, but you know what? Good for Jenna. There's a way to get out of that engagement before you end up getting married and your life ends anyway. So it's a little extreme, but I like her style.
There are pictures in this article, or it's a video article. If you scroll through, you can see the actual x-rays with the ring in her stomach. So she did have to go to the hospital because of this and expose herself to.
That's the funniest part, too. The best thing is she shows up. She's like, yeah, my stomach hurts. And like, strap on the mask. We have another potential coronavirus victim here. And it's, you just swallowed your engagement ring. Oh, I thought that was a dream. Nope, it was real, honey.
Done.
Well, I'm reading, it seems like she doesn't want to get married, and she is a resourceful chick. She didn't want the bad guys in her dream to get her ring, so she ate it.
Hey, there you go, man.
Good thing it wasn't her purse they were after.
Seriously, she would have suffocated. No, but seriously, she could have been, if that would have passed through, that would probably not have been a fun experience. It's a good thing that she went to the hospital and got checked out because, that seems like it would potentially be painful. Yeah. Well, then again, you don't know. I didn't see the actual ring. Are we talking diamond, cubic zirconium? Yeah. The density of that mass would surely have an impact.
It's got a big rock on it, and my girlfriend actually works at a children's hospital, so I hear about this stuff all the time. Kids eat a lot of things, and they pass them. So I feel doubly sorry for this lady.
All right. Article number 3 has an image going up for you guys. If I can make that happen. The title, and look for the image in our Discord as I'm trying to do this. Here it goes. Man in St. Louis bar lights cigarette while ignoring armed robber. Security footage shows a St. Louis bar patron's nonchalant reaction to an otherwise terrifying armed robbery.
This is hilarious. A couple things right off the bat here. I don't know. I've never been to Missouri. I've never been to St. Louis. I'm not really sure what the laws are there, but this is the reason why you should, as a citizen with, no criminal background or felony, should be able to carry a gun, because he'd be acting hopefully much differently if he was in that bar, and instead of smoking a cigarette, hopefully he'd have the courage enough to prevent this robbery from happening. But on the other hand, my guy probably had a really stressful day at work. He's clearly an essential worker. I can just deduce that from the image. And he probably put up with a lot of bullshit at work and then wanted to just have a smoke, drink a beer at the bar. If a robbery is going to happen, hey, it's not his bar. He's just going to keep doing his own thing. So props to this guy. The degenerate that robbed the bar, though, actually probably not a bad time to do an armed robbery, if you think about it. You know what I mean?
Bars are just opening up. The people are going to be pouring to them. And this poor guy, man, he just wanted to sit at a bar and have a cigarette. And side note, inside joke, the bartender or tavern bartender looks like a distant relative to a buddy of ours.
He does. You got to think about it. If law enforcement are busy dealing with other shit because of the virus, like, now is the time. I can't knock the robber for the timing. That's all I have to say. Like, now's a decent time. If you're a listener, I'm not saying, go out and commit an armed robbery.
I think there was a city that just made our news that they had it was in Louisiana. They had a curfew alarm every night that would ring, and the curfew, they were using the same alarm sound as from the movie in The Purge. So imagine being there 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, you hear the Purge alarm.
I saw that as well. They did get in trouble for it,
yes,
but great maneuver. And just to add, like, this guy, just for listeners out there, if you're going to commit an armed robbery or be in an armed robbery, you're going to have these people. On the flip side, being this, if this is happening, it's probably the best reaction you can do. Don't freak out. Just chill. Nobody wants to get shot. Now, if he threatens your life directly with that gun and you're a concealed carry person, do what you got to do. But for the most part, be a smart person. Don't escalate the situation.
Offer the man a cigarette, maybe.
Yeah, but on the flip side, it's another way to look at it. My guy just can't escape death. He's sitting there chain smoking cigarettes. He knows it's only a matter of time before he's on his way out. Now the dude rolls in
sitting
with a gun
on a beach in a Grim Reaper costume.
If it's the beach, it's the bar, he's coming for you no matter what.
Excellent. I think we had 3 great articles there. And again, we'll post links in the episode description, and I may throw a couple.
This episode of Generation Web is sponsored by Trainual. The way the world works has changed seemingly overnight, but the way your team works doesn't have to. Trainual is the top-rated software for keeping teams aligned and accountable from anywhere. Trusted by more than 50,000 users in 100-plus countries, Trainual makes onboarding and training faster than ever by organizing all of your business's how-tos and need-to-knows in one app. Trainual organizes all of your processes, policies, and SOPs in one place. Share with your team at the click of a button. It's easy to access, easy to track, and easy to update. Try Trainual free for your first month by visiting trainual.com/free month. That's TRAINUAL.com/FREEMONTH. Also, make sure to follow Generation Web so you never miss an episode.
Photos in the video version of this podcast that goes up on our YouTube channel. Links are on our Twitter @GenWebPod. All right, the meat of the episode, the conspiracy corner, aliens, UFOs, and cover-ups. Oh my, boy did I botch that in the intro. No way to edit that. Josh, since you're kind of our resident conspiracy expert here, I've got my tinfoil hat securely fastened. Take it away, sir.
All right, man. So when it comes to aliens, we could talk for hours and hours and hours, all the different conspiracies and theories. But with this news coming from the Pentagon, one of the things that really struck a chord with me was watching other podcasts and other individuals that are big into conspiracies, specifically aliens. I got an interesting take from someone who mentioned that one of these days the government is going to put out some information like they just did that, hey, there may be a UFO or alien life form tried to contact us. And at that point, that's when you should be really skeptical. Because right now, a bulk or the majority of the conspiracy theories are from a different perspective, right? That, there's 200 billion planets, and how could we be the only life form out there in the universe? And I get that argument, and I agree with it. But once they bring to the table that, aliens tried to contact us, or there was a UFO flying around in the sky or in Earth's atmosphere, that's when you should really start to be a little bit concerned, because in my opinion, I think that is a way to potentially cover up some other things that may be going on, other things that could potentially be relevant in the news, but that story is going to kind of steal the spotlight from what's going on. So I find it funny that we have this coronavirus going on, everyone's in quarantine, and during this time, all of a sudden the Pentagon comes out and says, hey, yes, there was a UFO. We were unable to identify the flying object, and we just feel as though that the American public deserves to know about this information. But for years and years and years,
like a look over here tactic, like a red herring.
Absolutely, it's
Gotcha.
the ultimate red herring because it captures everyone's attention, right? So in the United States, but this is just true globally as well, people are divided politically, religiously, racially, but we can all kind of like band together and look at aliens and UFOs and kind of be on the same side in a sense that, like, is this going to be a threat to us? Or, what is the reasoning behind them potentially, trying to gain access to our way of life? It's one of those topics that it just grabs everyone's attention. It doesn't matter if you grew up poor, grew up rich, if you're Republican, Democrat, it's just something everyone's interested in. So it's the ultimate red herring. And like I said, I agree. I don't think that we're the only life form out in the universe that exists. I do think that there is life in other solar systems, but there's a whole other argument to be made whether or not that any of those life forms ever tried to contact us here on Earth. And I just am a little skeptical when it's the government.
There's a big difference between how you and I and Casey would casually discuss life out there versus a scientist. Their definition of life is going to be drastically different than what we may be thinking of as intelligent life that can communicate and travel.
Yeah, but I kind of side with them. If you ask me, and not to veer too far off from the initial topic that I brought up here, but let's just lay it on the table. Do I think that intelligent life has ever reached planet Earth, tried to contact us? I would argue no. I think that life exists. I don't know if it's as intelligent as us. I would probably argue that there is life out there that is just as intelligent, if not more intelligent. But I just don't see that life having a desire to reach us. Because if you think about it, scientists would argue that the universe is somewhere between 13 to 14 billion years old. Earth, as a planet, they think is about 4 billion years old. So that means we're relatively new when comparing that to the lifespan of the universe. So based on that data, you can analyze that potentially we're not the first planet that has life. And if you think of it that way, it's just as likely that there may be life somewhere else, and it might exist on more than one planet. So what would make us so interesting or unique that aliens would need to come and contact us?
We're not even a type 1 civilization. Earth as a planet, as a planet civilization, which a type 1 is a planetary civilization who can use and store all of its available energy on its host planet. We can't do that currently. So what is a type 2 civilization that can store and control energy from its solar system, like capturing and harnessing the true power of the sun? Why would they ever reach out to us? We can't,
Right. If a species is out there that could get to us, why would they need to? The only reason we're looking at space exploration or travel is, for the quest of knowledge, but also maybe expansion of the human race. But we're nowhere close to that. And we would be long able to tell with our telescopes if there was a civilization that needed more room or planets to expand. Are the chances of our planet being working for them? Who knows? But like you said, we're not even type 1. We have nothing to offer. If you can travel here from somewhere else far away, we got nothing for you that you need.
Well, you can also look at it in another light as well. Just think about other species that exist on this planet. Something minuscule like an ant, for example. Yes, are there scientists out there that are studying ants and their behavior? Absolutely. But are there scientists out there directly trying to communicate with ants? No. So is it possible that there is life out there that has attempted to kind of study us from afar? It's possible, but to come in direct contact with us and you hear these stories of people basically being abducted by aliens. I don't buy any of that. I just don't see a desire for that at all. It doesn't add up to me. We are genetically closer to an ant than we would be to any alien that doesn't exist in our solar system. So if we can't communicate with ants, it's a good chance that we won't be able to communicate with aliens. That's just the truth of the matter.
Or even recognize them as another form of intelligent life. We've all evolved due to the conditions of our planet and our direct environment.
2 points to what you said. So, speaking, even ants, right? So ants communicate with pheromones, right? That's how they stay on the path. That's how they change direction and get their commands, right? Even if aliens could, they could be contacting us or communicating with us in, ways that we can't do. We just can't comprehend, or we don't have the visual, sensory technology, the light, I'm trying to say it could be spectrums of light that we can't see, signals that we can't detect. And the other thing about the people, I'm totally with you. No one's been probed. How many scientists kidnap an animal, probe it to learn about it? They kidnap it and dissect it. So if you got abducted by aliens, they might dissect you, but you're not coming back from that. Right. No one's gotten probed.
Well, the probing could be the alien form of tagging, like we do to sharks and other species catch and release, put a GPS tag up their butts, and watch them.
True. X-ray should be able to find that, though, right?
Hey, I'm just sitting here with the stick poking the bear. That's all I'm
Right,
doing.
playing little devil's advocate. It's all good.
So to get back to my original topic, though, just like show of hands, especially with the recent news that came out last week, do you think there was some sort of red herring tactic behind it, or do you think it was authentic and genuine?
It could be two ways. I very much agree that they chose to release this at the right time. And you could go two ways, that it was just a literal distract me technique. And now there's something that we're not seeing that's happening.
I'm 100% with you because this footage was actually released in 2007, declassified in 2005. I've seen this video many years ago. Same video, same format. Back then it was not confirmed as a UFO, but like we knew it was a UFO. It was the Navy was very mad about it being released because it was showing off the technology that they have on the jets right now. The fact that they can lock on and target and keep on track of a camera something moving that fast across the ground. Now they've released it again or confirmed it as a UFO. And exactly like why now?
Well, let me throw the question out there is, could the whole thing be timing? If you're a conspiracy believer and believer in cover-ups, that the government is constantly hiding the truth out there or the evidence, Roswell, various crash sites, the Men in Black, not the movie, the actual elite unit, quote unquote, that exists or doesn't exist. Is this now the right time to let the public know about aliens in a slow manner? Because prior, everyone was worried that we couldn't handle this truth, that it would cause mass panic and riots. So why not let a little bit of confidential stuff now get confirmed when everyone's sitting at home, complacent, and they have control?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a matter of timing. I don't know if everyone would panic and riot out in the streets. Not for something like this, where it was just basically a harmless UFO and there wasn't really any consequences of that sighting. But yeah, I think now's the perfect time because, as you mentioned, everyone's quarantined. They're being told not to go out, so it is a good time to release this information. The second part of it, though, is if it is being used as a red herring, what is it a red herring for? And that's a whole nother discussion in itself. How obviously it came from the Pentagon, which is a government entity and an agency of employees that work there that are basically paid by the taxpayer. But, who controls and makes those decisions to ultimately leak that information? There's a whole nother topic in itself, but it's difficult to assess right now because of kind of what's going on. So I think that's why the timing really works out in their favor to release it right now, because of all this other madness that's going on.
And this is almost a repeat. This common phenomenon that we're talking about is lights in the sky in various shapes or patterns moving incredibly fast. Kind of mirrors a well-known conspiracy story called Foo Fighters back in World War II. Air Force pilots flying overnight missions reported seeing lights chasing their aircraft. A number of them varied. Sometimes it was one, other times like 10 lights. And the colors were like red, orange, and green. And moving speeds that they could estimate close to 200 miles per hour and could turn at the dart of a dime, is in quotes. And these pilots were, again, some of the world's best at the time. And they were all kind of ignored. But this is kind of a well-documented thing that happened in World War II in 1944, where it's just kind of a repeat of credible people, pilots, Air Force, that are giving these reports of seeing these UFOs or whatever they are.
Sometimes, Michael, you just need to learn to fly. Because there's no easy way out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, working at the airport, I've been on test flights a few times. We haven't seen anything.
Will you let us know? Will you be our eyes in the sky, Casey?
Of course. And then just a quick callback to the earlier podcast. Jack's totally right. I've seen it all inside these planes. There's no canisters for chemtrails either.
So we report 2 confirmations now. Chemtrails are fake. You heard it here first on Generation Web. So let's take it back to the classic conspiracy tales for aliens. Everyone's heard of the WOW signal and SETI and what they do to search for extraterrestrial intelligence, right?
Yes.
So the WOW signal, quick background on this, and I know Casey maybe has some points to maybe invalidate SETI, but we'll see. So 1977, Ohio State's Big Ear radio telescope intercepted a 72-second burst of sound that bore signs to come from interstellar space. And what was kind of abnormal is it measured in the 1420 megahertz range, a frequency that's considered the water hole in radio emission, which it's like a completely void frequency usually, and it's very quiet. The astronomer who spotted it was so excited when he saw this radio sequence come through that he said, "Wow!" And that's how we know it as the WOW signal. And although it's very controversial, it is still considered the best evidence of alien communication ever obtained. Now, alien doesn't necessarily mean extraterrestrials, green men. Alien just meaning not from our solar system. Alien to us. Some sort of transmission that had a sequence that lasted for more than a second, 72 seconds, in fact, a repeating pattern that has yet to be deciphered to this day.
Very interesting.
So you were mentioning, Casey, earlier that you have
I have some arguments for and against SETI. I mean, what you're talking about there is, there are radio waves and X-rays and all sorts of things bursting off of stars all the time. So, I mean, it's hard to say what anything is. Now, SETI's been, for those who don't know, it's a series of radio satellites that basically guys started in the 60s and started listening for aliens out there, various signals and stuff. And since then it's grown. There's a large array of them in a couple different places. But to this date, SETI has found nothing. Most research installations are not actively funded, but they're still out there. Actually, no, I take that back. Basic SETI is funded, but the thing is, people are kind of going back and forth against this active SETI, which they know as METI. So, as opposed to the search, now we're messaging to extraterrestrial intelligences.
So now we're broadcasting instead of listening.
We're doing both, but because we've been listening for over 60 odd years and haven't found anything, maybe we should reach out to them. Now, like I said, SETI's never found anything. Now, we've been sending out all sorts of things, 8-bit drawings. We even sent out the entirety of Craigslist back when it was hot. People are kind of concerned a little bit. They're like, why would you put a beacon? Why would you send out all this stuff? If someone advanced found us, maybe they would come take us over. You never know.
When you're talking about radio transmission and broadcast, they do go back, 60 years. So the biggest counterpoint is not that we've been listening for 60 years, it's that we've only been listening for 60 years. We're listening to a very narrow, so in space, the farther out you're listening for, the further back in time, like you're like at the telescope, you're seeing light from so far away that by the time it gets you, you're seeing it.
Oh yeah, the original source could be gone. That star could be dark by the time the light gets to us.
So if we're broadcasting our radio television waves, let's call it 60 years, that transmission has only gone, for rough math, 60 light years. And that's not equivalent at all, because that's how fast light travels, not sound and radio communication, but let's say it gets out 60 light years, you're looking at a very small part of the solar system that would, or galaxy that would be able, I don't even know if that'll reach to the outside of the Milky Way. So at this point, we're only broadcasting to technically the person sitting next to us in scale.
Right, we're not going very far. And also, we've been broadcasting over the radio, TV, satellite for a long time now, and people think, well, we're not putting out anything more than we already possibly could have, you know. But it's just, do we want to put out a call and bring somebody here? You never know. And like I said, those are not actively funded, so that's kind of just on people's pet projects, you'll say, you know.
And didn't SETI just get shut down, or the SETI at Home program?
Like at home? I don't know, actually.
The crowdsourced, where you could run the program that would communicate with all the array of satellites, and they would crowdsource, supercompute everyone's home PCs linked in to try to analyze that data. I think that program was just shut down like last week.
As far as I looked out, yeah, there is an outage as of right now. 10th of March is the last update. But, you know, they are still working out on it. Let's see here. The final phase of analysis is picking up. But, you know.
SETI at Home to shut down after 2 decades of crowdsourced alien hunting. The program let anyone with an internet connection search for extraterrestrial life, and now says the work is done. After March 31st, they are pulling the plug on the program. They still have lots of back data to process, but they're not collecting anymore.
These people have too much time on their hands, man. Like, all right, I appreciate them putting their effort into their passions, but I mean, this is the truth of the situation. We as a planet are not even a unified entity, right? We have all of these nations that are constantly fighting, and we're at war, and because we can't even agree and be peaceful amongst ourselves. So how are we a threat to anyone else that's out there? And what does our planet contain that would be such a desire for alien life form to even bother with us? It just, again, it gets back to us being such a young planet, and our technology isn't great.
Well, we are super warlike and violent, and they've probed enough of us to know that. If they're intelligent enough, they know that if they did come, we would unite, and that would be bad for them.
Yeah. On February 25th, 1942, Steven Spielberg has popularized the Battle of Los Angeles to prove our need for aggression. Reports came filtering in that glowing objects over Culver City. Air raid sirens were sounded. The Army proceeded to pepper it with over 1,400 anti-aircraft shells. Eventually it disappeared from view, but not before a citywide blackout was ordered. Shell fragments got lodged in surrounding buildings, and 5 civilians died. The Navy later explained that it had been a weather balloon, but obviously skeptics would question why would waste an hour's worth of heavy artillery to eliminate a single weather balloon.
You wouldn't. But this is the type of stuff I like to talk about. All right, so like this topic and kind of what we talked about for just a brief few seconds last podcast with Egypt. This is the type of stuff that needs to be brought up, because this kind of questions all of our theories where, we basically all kind of agree that we're calling bullshit on some of these things, but can you explain how the pyramids were built and why we have tablets dating back to 1300 BC where they can correctly depict the solar system, and they know that there's other planets other than the Earth, and it orbits around the sun, and even though they didn't name them Venus, Mars, and Jupiter and such, but they even were able to get the sizes to be pretty relative to how they are. How do you explain those things? Or like you just said, with the whole Battle of Los Angeles, that's when you get the skeptics that come in. That's when you have these conspiracy theorists that say, no, aliens exist and aliens have been here. So what are your takes on that, Michael, for those types of things? What are the explanations?
I'm sick and tired of it being a military exercise or a weather balloon. And why is it always those two? Or something, or as unidentified civilian aircraft. There's a set number of go-to explanations that are fed to us that, given the circumstances prior, don't really fit the reaction that was given. So, like the Battle of Los Angeles, why is it a weather balloon after, and I know it was 1942, World War II. There's a lot of ways you can explain this, but when you get into ancient aliens, that's a whole different topic. Have aliens visit us in the past? Probably. How else can you get that type of global knowledge? Because that wasn't only Egypt, it was the Babylonians, it was the Mayans and the Aztecs, all had this understanding of how the universe worked before astrology, before Galileo, before telescopes, before mathematics as an official thing. I know the Egyptians had math and geometry, but how did this knowledge get from these separated civilizations that didn't exist at the same time?
Well, I think we have a very linear, or our outlook today when it comes to technological advancement is very linear, and it's that as we as a society and as human beings progress and as we get older, that we are constantly advancing technologically and we are getting more and more intelligent. And I think it's hard for people to wrap their brain around the idea that that may not potentially be the case, that there may have been areas that ancient civilizations were more knowledgeable about back then than we are today. And I think it's a possibility because, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, we are simply products of our environment, and there are things that may have took place back then that led to them being more knowledgeable in certain aspects than we may be today. I don't think that's a very popular belief, but it's actually one that I buy into. You're right. They didn't have computers and the ability to do all these mathematical equations and calculations that we can do today. But is it possible that they had things back then that we just haven't discovered or been able to account for that led to them being able to figure out these things? I think it's possible. I mean, because all that we have is from their civilizations is what remained and what was left over. And how accurate are those depictions?
I agree with you, Josh.
We could be seeing what we want to see.
Right.
I know y'all are gamers, so you'll catch this analogy. It's almost like if you had the skill tree and all of our things went this way based off of previous knowledge, and it just advancing from there and there and there. We might have just went in a totally different direction than they did, and the other thing is, like, history is sketchy back then. We don't have it all, and people existed for a long time, not 5,000 years. Cleopatra was born closer to an iPhone than she was the building of the pyramids.
That's crazy.
It really puts it into perspective. These civilizations are ancient. They've been around long enough for modern Egyptians, as we, guys who are writing on hieroglyphs and living out of the pyramids and burying their pharaohs, they might not even know how the pyramids were built because it was generations before them. It's just this time of scale and the vastness of knowledge, and then, like you said, just not having the records, in 1,000 years they're going to know everything about us because our Facebook profiles will be in the cloud. I mean, it's just one of those things where many times, like, this things could have happened and just we can't tell,
Well, look at it from a biological standpoint. So, scientists that study evolution and biology are seeing a clear pattern that we as humans are becoming less muscular, and there's all this scientific data to kind of prove that, because we don't have to go out and hunt in the wild for our food. It's slaughtered for us, and we can pick it up at a grocery store, and we spend a majority of our time in front of a computer screen, and we don't need to be these physically strong, imposing creatures. So, I mean, you could just argue right off the bat that the ancient civilizations from back then may have had a physical advantage over how we are today. So 100%. If you can look at it in that light, why can't you look at it in the other light, which is maybe from an intellectual standpoint or from a technological standpoint, that they were just as advanced, if not more advanced, but as you mentioned, just in a different area of study. As we focus on technology and electronics, maybe they focused on astrology and that type of stuff. It's possible.
I'm with you 100%. Also the population's much bigger now, and medical science has kept a lot of us alive that wouldn't have been. So, the difference in people from here to now then could be vast. If you didn't make it, you didn't survive, so.
Right. So the strongest survived then, so you would assume that either the most intelligent people survived or the most physically gifted people, and that doesn't happen today, obviously, which is why I'm on this podcast. What are your thoughts, Michael?
I don't think that probability and chance play a part into what happened. I think there are too many things we can't give an explanation to make a decision one way or the other. The way that for the pyramids, the way they're aligned, their geometric slope, the ways you would have to take and make those measurements. We don't know how they did it, but they were able to do it.
We couldn't actually. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say we can't actually build the pyramids today. With all our modern technology and cranes and engineering degrees, they still would not be able to recreate that feat. It's just
without a telescope, how did they get it aligned with the stars the way it is and align perfectly the corners to the cardinal directions? I mean, it can be done, but it's just so many things. Like, to get that type of layout and to line it up, they almost need like a helicopter and aerial photos, and then a protractor.
There's certain times of years where you can see multiple planets in the sky, so it's possible. Plus, not to get too crazy off topic, but the quality of the sky as far as visibility goes was probably way better back then than it was today. Obviously, it's nowhere near as...
There was no light pollution. No.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near as good as having a telescope. But no, I get what you're saying, Michael. It seems unbelievable and it seems miraculous and amazing, but all it takes is one tool, just one piece of technology, and then all of a sudden, it makes sense. That's how they were able to do it. So if you are one of those tinfoil hat guys like myself, and you buy into the conspiracy that, it had to be some sort of alien life form that, kind of gave them the ability or to figure out these things, well, it's just as conceivable that it was something else that we just don't know, just like we don't know about aliens.
They could have had organic technology. We don't know, and it just died out.
Maybe they were steampunk.
They were growing computers, They had rulers out of, who knows? But yeah,
let's pivot on the topic then. And while we're talking about the incredible and the hard to do, let's talk about crop circles. Something that dates back. They've been reported as far back as, in everything we've talked about so far with Egypt and pyramids to modern times, and even some of the elaborate designs, even with modern technology, are still impressive to think that maybe a couple people pulled this as a prank in a field, but the geometric shapes and the precision is amazing.
Well, handheld GPS can get you very far nowadays. And just one callback earlier about, modern UFO sightings. Through my job, I've learned a lot of the FAA codes, and as long as you're not in a regulated airspace, you can operate your own experimental aircraft with nothing but a handheld radio. So, as long as you contact a tower somewhere and aren't in controlled airspace and just fly over some country folk houses, could it be a UFO to them? You never know. But crop circles, yeah, so there's unexplained ones, and there's people that literally will say, oh yeah, I go do that as a hobby on the weekends. It's a muddled topic. What do you think, Josh?
This is the one area that I think, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm an expert on any of this, but I've done research and have been intrigued by a lot of this stuff, but when it comes to crop circles, it's just not something that's ever really caught my interest. So I don't really, obviously I know what a crop circle is. I've heard stories, as Michael mentioned. They seem to be really accurate as far as the geometry of the shapes and so forth. But I just don't know enough about the topic to sit there and claim one way or the other. That, it had to be aliens that caused them, or, they were made by humans. I honestly, I'm not really sure. What are your thoughts, Michael?
It was just that kind of controversial gray area that I was bringing up. It's probably something we're never going to get an answer to. More of just trying to get your guys' feel on them. Crop circles, they could be everything from an elaborate prank to maybe the aliens using them for navigation, stuff like that. But
I will say one thing: of all the ways to try to communicate, going to a cornfield and putting a weird shape in place is, it doesn't interest me.
It's sometimes I think, just random thought, but it's not a message for us. We can't really see it from the ground. If you had multiple ships coming in that day, and you had a nice big open spot to leave hey, go this way, or leave we're meeting up over here. Maybe it's just alien to alien messaging. One of their comms went out. Let's
free parking arrow.
Yeah,
Maybe, man. Really, I know we talked about movies last week. I don't want to dive back into movies, but it directly ties into this topic. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Arrival that came out about 3-4 years ago. It's about aliens that come to the planet, but they don't speak our language, or we can't communicate with them, so we dedicate someone to trying to learn their language to communicate with them. If you haven't seen it, check it out, but this kind of ties into what we're mentioning, because is it a form of communication, and it's just something that we don't understand, and that's the reason why we're looking at it in such a trivial light? I guess it is possible.
Yeah. Or they could be trying to say, once this civilization is smart enough, they will know what this means, and it's some sort of intergalactic map of here's where we are when you're ready.
Like a litmus test, I think. It's mark, and if they get it, then we'll come back, or they'll know what to do when you see it, but I don't know.
Yeah, a good movie, Signs, another one. Topical.
Yeah, that has the crop circles in it too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, as long as it doesn't rain.
So, any closing thoughts, aliens, conspiracies, cover-ups, anything you guys, in doing research for this episode, want to bring up?
I'll just say this, like you said earlier, it's a big universe out there. It's a little silly to think that we're the only ones in it. But it's also silly to think that it could be hidden from us if they have made it. I personally think, if they're out there, they're out there. granted, we're, like you said, the Earth's only 4 billion years old. We've only had recorded history for a few hundred of that. We've only been able to go to space since the 60s. If it is out there, it hasn't reached us, or it's not to a point where it can.
Yeah, and my last comment here is I just want to go out on my shield, because I'm the type of guy that likes to tell it how it is on this podcast. And do aliens exist? I think so. Are they as intelligent as us? I don't know. It's possible they're more intelligent. It's possible that they're less intelligent. Either way, have they ever had direct communication with us? I'm going to go out on my shield and say no. So until someone gives me some evidence, some hardcore direct evidence, not crop circles in a field somewhere, I'm not buying into it. I got bigger fish to fry, man.
The
when it comes to
debate
conspiracies.
tomorrow in Skype is going to be real. That's what I'm going to say.
One last thought. Everybody has an HD camera on their phone now. Why are UFO pics still blurry?
The
There's
same
less
reason
of
why
them.
Bigfoot and those pictures are blurry.
True.
But
I saw Bigfoot though on like a Slim Jim commercial, man. Remember that?
what was his name? Dave?
Squatch.
It was Jack Lynx, I think.
Sasquatch is real. They bury their dead.
But if aliens, UFOs, if they're out there, there's a good chance that we will find them. There's a reason why 10 of the world's billionaires are investing everything they have to get this civilization, this society as a whole, Earth, to space. With Elon Musk and Starlink putting all those satellites up there, the James Webb telescope going up hopefully next year. If there is stuff out there, it won't be hiding for long, especially now that space is privatized and we have non-government agencies going up there.
Yeah, that's what you think. I don't think it has anything to do with aliens. I think these guys are just globalists.
So when the tickets are on sale, you're not
greed
going.
or for their own, what's what I'm looking for, to their own detriment, they are going to push us forward. And hopefully
Yes,
we'll be part
I
of
agree
that
with that. I agree
galactic
with that.
civilization in the future.
I don't know if it's a good thing though, but I agree with what you're saying.
It'll be there one day.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This was a blast episode to do. Everyone that's listened in the past, we've had amazing support. We are right at the peak at 10K total listens across all our 5 episodes. Just for everyone to be aware, this season 1 of Generation Web is going to be 8 episodes long, and we're going to take a little break and try to come back with a little bit revamped format. So we've got a couple more episodes left. At the end of the season, we will be doing, because I'm sure we're going to hit the goal, we will be doing Conspiracy Jeopardy. That will be probably live streamed on Twitch. That way we can record it as well. So we can try to get some information to you guys of how we'll be streaming it here shortly. That should be in 3 to 4 weeks. And hopefully we can all sit down face to face. If not, we'll be figuring out how to do it remotely. Listen to us on Spotify, at GenWebPod on Twitter. And again, you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.